TED-like talk speaker.
Good morning. All right. So do you know that over 3,000 people were killed in India due to distracted driving in the year 2022? To make sense of this number, it essentially means that over 9 people were killed daily due to drivers engaging in behavior that led their attention astray off the road. This challenge of distracted driving gives an interesting opportunity to us designers to create safer driving experiences that result in safer roads for all. Hi, good morning. My name is Jatin Khanna. I work as a UX designer at KPIT Tech, where I design in-vehicle experiences with the goal to reduce driver distraction level and a driver who's clocked over 132,000 kilometers on Indian roads. And by my talk, if UX can kill it, probably will, I'll be talking about what is automotive UX, the perils of bad automotive UX, and what we designers can do to mitigate it. So let's begin. Let's begin by understanding what is automotive UX. So cars, just from being a mode of transportation from a few years ago, have now become mobile workspaces and home spaces for both driver as well as for passengers. And this has led to creation of experience places inside a vehicle. These experience places deal with information, communication, and entertainment, and how users will interact with the vehicle via these experience places is what automotive UX is. Having defined automotive UX, let's understand the dangers of bad automotive UX. And I'll start off by talking about what is distraction. So as per the Department of Transportation, USA, or DOT, distraction is classified as drivers' inattention from the act of dash. Can anyone help me figure out what would be a driver's primary task while they're driving? Anyone? Sorry? Not exactly. Anyone? It can be an interactive session. I know it's too early in the morning. Anyone know? All right. So distraction in the context of driving is classified as drivers' inattention from the act of driving itself. Right. So it brings on to the next question. Why do we get distracted? Well, the answer is simple. Our brains are wired in such a way. That's it. Thank you for coming to my talk. I hope you have a good day ahead. I'm kidding. So to understand why we get distracted, I'd like to talk about something which is called as the distraction cycle. And it has 4 key components, right? But first, I want all of you to look at this photo and imagine that you're driving down this monotonous stretch of road wherein there are no new sounds or sights to be experienced anymore. And this brings that feeling of uneasiness called as boredom. It triggers something in you. So the first step of the distraction cycle is the trigger itself. After you've gotten triggered, now you want to get rid of this boredom because our brains are wired in such a way that it can't deal with the feeling of uneasiness or discomfort. So what would you do inside a vehicle? So it could mean that you could talk to your passenger princess, could turn on the radio, right? And this brings on to the next step, which is action. You take some action to get rid of this discomfort. After you've taken this action, you get rewarded. You feel happy that you've some short-term gratification that you get, right? So this brings on to the next step, which is reward. And after you've gotten reward, you're invested in this activity because you've become happy and getting rid of the boredom. And it is a concern because now you're invested in activities that lead you to get distracted. This brings on to the next step, which is investment. And this is what a distraction cycle is. It starts with a trigger. You take some action on it, you get rewarded for it, and it leads you to get invested in that activity. So let's talk about different types of activities that lead you to get distracted inside a vehicle. And again, as per the DOT, or Department of Transportation, these are classified as 4 types. So the first type of distraction is a visual distraction inside a car, which essentially means that it is anything that takes your eyes off the road. So case in point would be you looking at the navigational prompts on the GPS system on your infotainment screen. The second type of distraction would be an auditory distraction. So imagine that you're driving down that, again, monotonous stretch of road, and you turn on the radio. and you catch an earworm, now which you start humming. So now your attention has shifted from the act of driving to now humming that song. The third type of distraction is a cognitive distraction. So this is those times where the flashbacks hit you the most. So imagine you're driving down the stretch of road, and all of a sudden you remember X from 7 years ago, right? Physically, you may be present inside a vehicle, but mentally you may be thinking about them. And I'm sure all of us might have been told something similar by our teachers back in school, that physically you are present inside the classroom, but mentally absent. It is the same thing. And on to the last one, which is a physical distraction. Look closely, that is me. So a physical distraction is anything that takes your physical ability away to maneuver a vehicle safely. Look closely, that is me shamelessly eating a McChicken while driving. Learn from me, be a safe driver, don't be like me. And this brings on to our next question, or a thought. Well, in-vehicle distractions are a design challenge. And as per me, I believe the major source of distraction inside a vehicle is the touchscreen itself. And you may be wondering, just like other people around the globe, if touchscreens are so distracting, then why even bother, right? So why touchscreens? To answer this question, the answer is twofold. A, as per S&P Global, the average size of a touchscreen inside a vehicle has gone up from 7.8 inches in the year 2018 to 8.4 inches this year. So the trend of touchscreens inside a car is not going anywhere anytime soon. And the answer for it from a manufacturer's point of view is that touchscreens are easier and cheaper to implement as compared to physical buttons. And the second part of the question, why touchscreens? For this, I'd like to talk about the interactions that happen inside a vehicle. And these can be classified as primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary interactions are those which are crucial for the act of driving. So it could be you monitoring the speed, turning on the indicator, switching on the wipers. Secondary interactions are those which are frequent and they don't take a lot of time. So case in point, adjusting the temperature inside a vehicle or turning on the radio. And tertiary interactions are those which are opposite to secondary interactions. They take a lot of time and are infrequent. Case in point would be you entering your destination on the GPS system inside a car. Well, where does this lead us to? It leads us to the fact that the complexity of tertiary interaction inside a car is increasing day over day. A real-world example of this is a screen that is being presented to users inside a Porsche Taycan, which is an electric vehicle by a German manufacturer called as Porsche. So over here, you can see that both the driver as well as the passenger can adjust their seats from the screen itself. And to answer the question, why touchscreens? Well, as we have discussed, they are cost-effective and the rising complexity of interactions that happen inside a vehicle. So having understood the landscape, that bad automotive UX will lead to distraction that may eventually lead to death, what we can do as designers, right? So what I propose is certain key parameters or principles that we can think about while designing interfaces. So the first principle that we can keep in mind is keeping it safe. So the primary goal of a designer for a driver driving a vehicle is to keep them safe, right? And unlike other digital products, our goal is to reduce the number of interactions that a user has with that product, because as you have seen, anything apart from driving is a distraction. So what we can do, a real-world example of how it's being done, I know it's controversial, the Tesla screen, but if you were to look at it from a designer's point of view, it is quite good, because this screen offers clear affordances, as well as the controls are within easy reach for the driver, as well as for the passenger, as you can see in the bottom navigation. The next principle that I'll talk about is using multiple modalities. Touchscreens inside a car, well, they're straightforward, but are they the best option? I believe no. If we were to diversify these interactions, right, what will happen is it will certainly reduce the driver's mental load. And how it's been done in real world is what BMW does. So the infotainment system inside a BMW, it's called as the iDrive, where the touchscreen is not only supplemented, but complemented by physical controls. These physical controls are those which are frequently interacted with by a user. So as you can see that we have a physical volume rocker, we have buttons for home and going back, and a knob to traverse between screens. On to the next principle. All right, I believe it's too less, too little. So the next principle that I was going to talk about was less is more. I believe it is too less. Uh, so as we know, driving is all about decision making. And the last thing we want a driver is to take on more decisions, right? And with the increased reliance on digital interfaces inside a vehicle, the temptation to keep on adding features does exist because it's easy to implement and cheaper to design as well. All you need to do is send an OTA update and you get new features. But are all features necessary for the act of driving? I believe not. And so does Volvo. So this is an instrument cluster that a user will find in a Volvo EX90, which is an electric SUV by a Swedish manufacturer called as Volvo. So over here, you can see that the driver is presented with information that's conducive for driving. So they are presented with the speed, the telltale, the state of charge, the range, and that's it. That's it. They've kept it as minimal as possible. And one thing that we all can keep in mind is using Hicks law while designing such interfaces. On to our next and last principle, which is context. I know context is one generic term, but it is even more so important when it comes to cars, where the context keeps on changing every second, every minute, because the vehicle is in motion. And how a user will interact with the vehicle or with our product would depend on many factors. It could be such as the weather conditions, the traffic conditions, road conditions. And there also exists high-level context, such as language preferences, habits, so on and so forth. And how designers have kept this in mind, a real-world example of this is this SUV by a Japanese manufacturer called as Infiniti, which is a line of premium vehicles by Nissan. So this SUV is sold in both USA as well as in China. And the designers have done something interesting for the car, the model which is sold in the Chinese market. But before that, I'd like to give you an insight into the Chinese. So Chinese love karaoke, and over there they call it as KTV. So designers have kept this in mind and have implemented a KTV, a karaoke inside a vehicle. And don't worry, it is only functional when the vehicle is parked and is stationary. Having talked about all these principles, I'd also like to talk about a personal anecdote that I faced or encountered a few days ago when I was in Mumbai. So a few days ago, while I was in Mumbai, I hired a rickshaw, and while the rickshaw was crawling through Mumbai's dense traffic, from the corner of my eye, I saw that the driver was scrolling through his Facebook feed while driving the auto. And that led me thinking. It led me thinking that distractions, they cannot be eliminated inside a vehicle, right? Some distractions can come from within, as we saw, a cognitive distraction or a visual distraction. You cannot eliminate or get rid of billboards on the road. But they can certainly be reduced. And I believe as designers, we play an important role in creating safer roads. Keeping all this in mind, my team and I at KPIT design safer driving experiences for all. That's it. Thank you for being here, for being such a great audience. Any questions?
Great presentation, first off. So actually, since the event has started, we've been hearing this term AI. I thought you'll at least use once AI in your PPT. So can you touch upon a little bit on AI in automotive industry? What's your vision and what you guys are doing about it?
So, good question. So AI in automotive, well, there do exist certain AI bots in certain cars. One example that comes to my mind is the MG EZS, which is an electric vehicle sold in India. And it has a one blob on the dashboard, and it is actually a voice-activated AI. You can tell it to do certain tasks inside a vehicle, such as open the sunroof or turn on the lights. That's it. And what we are doing about AI, we are making it we are doing it for backend, as in we make our workflow efficient right now, having not done it for the actual end users till now.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll have. Okay, so first of all, amazing presentation, really amazing presentation. I just wanted to ask, you said about China, they installed a karaoke set, and when the car will be parked,
right,
then only, they can use it.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any possibility that we can do this with our music system in India that is installed in cars that can only be used while it is parked so that we can reduce accidents?
It can be, but would users be happy about it? I don't think so.
So is there any way?
It's an expectation nowadays that if you're inside a car, you'd like to play some music while you're driving it.
Right.
So yeah, that's it. I would say it can be done, but should it be done? No, should not.
Yes. And also like one thing, like, I was seeing the presentation. So, you have used your real pictures over there.
Oh, yes,
So
I have.
that's fantastic, like something
Thank you.
very unique. Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Hi. One last, if that's okay.
Oh yes. Hi.
Very interesting presentation.
Thank
although
you.
I wasn't here from the beginning, but whatever I saw, very lovely insights. I think based off experience and a very valid problem.
Right.
Now, another thing that I face is when driving is that I don't only have to take care of my car or my family in the car, I have to
Right.
take care of other people,
Right.
especially people who are coming the wrong lane. Like I am often on a main road and a big bus has actually broken the rule and is right in front of me on the wrong side of the lane. So I think a part of it is also, I think, especially in India and driving safely in India, is also probably helping the police do its job by
Right.
sort of communicating that this. I mean, I don't know how to take care of, like people don't follow rules. That's a main
That
thing.
is true.
Which causes a lot of accidents and killing on the
It
road.
does, it does,
So
it does.
how can we also use our vehicles or something in the vehicles to sort of get these to, be followed perhaps?
I think the first step that we can do is be safe drivers, unlike me, as you saw, and can set an example by educating other people. This is what we can do for now. Using vehicles, our own vehicles, for other peoples to not break rules, I'm not too sure about it for now. But yeah, we can set an example by being safe drivers is what I would say. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? No? Cool. Thank you.